We'll continue our discussion on binary counter with supporting operations are now increment and decrement. We saw that if it is sequence of increments, it is constant amortized. So initial configuration is all zeros, then we perform increment, say we get this. Now it is a sequence of these two, so we may even perform decrement immediately. So we get back to this. Now it is an arbitrary sequence of increment and decrement. So it could even be all increment, or it could be increment, decrement, increment, decrement, or we may perform increment for a while, then maybe decrement, or increment, decrement alternates. So it could be any arbitrary sequence on these two operations. Now we wish to know what is the amortized cost. And if it is just increment, we know it is constant. Now the additional operation, is it making the task easier or difficult? That's precisely what we are interested in. Let's look at this configuration. Suppose initially we have all zeros, then we perform increment. So something like this, we perform increment for a while. Say we get something like this. Okay. Now we perform one more increment, say we get this. Then we perform, say, decrement. Say we get this. Again an increment, we get this. Something like this, we alternate between say increment and decrement. As part of our analysis, our focus is on time complexity, as we were interested in counting number of bit flips. So now if you see this sequence of increment, and from here it is just one bit flip, and year to year it is 1 is changed to 0 and 0 is changed to 1. But when you look at this, now when we perform increment, all these are changed to 0 and this one is changed to 1. When we perform decrement, all these are changed to 1 and this one is changed to 0. So it turns out that there are operations, there is a configuration on which if we perform increment or decrement, the number of bit flips is precisely the size of the counter. And in this case k, where k is the size of the counter. And again when we perform say increment, we see that all these bits are flipped. On decrement, again all these bits are flipped. So the cost of each of this is function of k, where k is the size of the counter. And this cannot be ruled out, because when we do amortized analysis, we say an arbitrary sequence, which means sequence like this should be taken into account when we do the analysis. Let's look at aggregate method. So if it is just this, then we know it is constant amortized. But when it is a mix, something like this happens, then we have to be careful. For example, say we do sequence of increment for the first n by 2 times. The other n by 2 we perform increment, decrement, increment, decrement, like the one listed here. And overall there are n operations. Now if you look at the cost of this, so amortized cost of this one is total cost divided by the number of operations. The first n by 2 is increment. And we know that if there are n by 2 operations, all of them are increment. Then we did a micro level analysis that was showing us it is constant amortized. Now the other n by 2 we alternate, and it turns out that each of them is taking theta of k, where k is the size of the counter. And in general it is order of k. for this example, it is theta of k divided by number of operations, and it turns out that this one is theta of k. So this shows that amortized cost of increment or decrement is order k, which is order log n, and it is not constant. Amortized cost of increment and decrement is order log n. And here is a sequence where it is tight. It is indeed taking theta of log n. And as far as aggregate analysis is concerned, whatever average cost we get, the same is assigned to all operations. In this case, increment is order log n and decrement is order log n. Let's look at the next method, which is accounting method. When we move from this to this, we said charge 2 credits, one for the actual cost, the other one is stored with the data structure or the bit 1. Now when we move from this to this, the cost of flipping this is free, and cost of flipping this is 2, one actual cost, one is stored with the data structure. So like that we were doing. Now we can continue that. So for increment, assign 2 credits, of which one is the actual credit, the other one is stored with the framework or the data structure. Now what about decrement? For decrement, how much we are supposed to charge? Please note, when we perform sequence of increment, at any point in time, if you see 1, there is a credit attached to it. And if you see this, there will be a credit attached to each of them. And further increment, all this is free. This one we charge 2, so we get this. Now from this, we perform decrement. So from this we move to this. If you note this, now we don't have any charge associated with any of this. Correct? Now there is a bit flip happening at each of them. Now who will supply the cost of this? With the data structure, we just have 1 credit that will be used for flipping this 1 to 0. But we need some credits to flip 0 to 1. And as such, we don't have sufficient credits with the data structure which will supply for this operation. So now, which means for decrement, we have to sufficiently charge so that decrement operation can be carried out. So if charge is or credit is already available with the data structure, use that. But framework can never go negative, meaning you cannot do an operation assuming that operation, the credit will be taken later, or we cannot do operation under debt. If you have credits, we can take it, and if there are no credits, we have to sufficiently charge the current operation. So I cannot say decrement is constant and later I somehow charge some other operation and compensate decrement. The reason is that some other operation may not happen because it is an arbitrary sequence, and assuming some other operation will supply for decrement, supposing that operation did not happen at all, then we run into a problem. We will not show it is constant amortized, or we will have a framework where we see that some of the operations are done where there are no credits. So such a thing should not happen. We can only either charge sufficiently or use the credits available. So now similar thing, but if we somehow charge the decrement and ensure that these ones are sufficiently charged, meaning there is a credit 1 associated with each of them, then this increment can be carried out. Otherwise, even this increment cannot be carried out. So that should be taken into account, because our framework says at any point in time, if you look at the number of ones and number of credits are one and the same. So how do we charge the decrement? First, decrement operation should be carried out, and we have sufficient credits left with the framework, or number of credits left is same as number of ones in the data structure. So keeping these two, so what we do is the following. This itself gives you the picture. Suppose the configuration is this. Now if we perform decrement, then we get 0 all of this, and we only have 1 credit left with this. With all of this we don't have credits, so we have to sufficiently charge this operation so that this can be carried out. So what we do is the following. Let T denotes the number of zeros after the rightmost one. So this is our T. Then what we do as part of decrement, we charge 2T credits. So T credits for the actual cost. So T credits actual cost, and the other T credits you store with the framework or at bit 1. So now what happens? We charge 2 credits. Now all these ones will have 1 each. At any point in time, with 0 you will not see a credit. With 1 there is 1 credit associated with it. And when we flip 1 to 0, that is free, and that is what we say. When we flip 1 to 0, there is no credit, and when we flip 0 to 1, we charge 2. But when we perform decrement, we have to take zeros into account, which is why we are sufficiently charging decrement so that the operation can be carried out. Subsequent to that, we will also have 1 with each one in the data structure. But this one is function of k. So 2t is order k or order log n. So that shows that increment is constant amortized, whereas decrement is order log n amortized. Both cannot be done in constant. One of them is constant, the other one is function of n, which is order log n. So let's look at potential function. Very similar to what we did. Potential still represents number of ones. Increment we saw. Increment we saw it as 2, and so the same thing works because potential function remains the same. Let's analyze the decrement operation. What is the actual cost? Suppose the configuration is like this, then what is the actual cost? T zeros will be flipped to 1 and 1 will be flipped to this, so the actual cost is T plus 1. In general that is true, right? Look at rightmost one and see how many zeros to the right of it, and all of them will be flipped to 1, 0 will be flipped to 1 and 1 will be flipped to this. So the actual cost is T plus 1, T for flipping zeros and 1 for this, plus change in potential. how many ones are there after the operation. So initially there will be x, and let's assume there are x number of ones before decrement operation. Then all these zeros are flipped to 1, so it becomes x plus t. This 1 is changed to 0, so 1 1 is reduced, and before the operation it is x. So phi I minus 1, this one is actual cost. So this one is actual cost, and this one is phi I minus 1. Initially there are x number of ones. Due to decrement, we change all of them to 1, so it is x plus t. This one is changed to 0, so it is minus 1 minus x. So this is what we get, and this one is 2t. And we just now told 2t is order k or order log n amortized. This also tells you that accounting method and potential function, they go hand in hand. So this tells you that potential function method gives you 2t, t is a variable, and t can depend on the size of the counter, which is order log n. So now you can add one more operation. For example, you add say reset, and now reset is from this configuration. When I perform reset, then it becomes all zeros. Now on this one cannot perform decrement. One can perform some sequence of increment, then go for decrement, and so on. Now suppose binary counter supporting operations are increment, decrement, and reset. What would be the amortized cost? What would be the aggregate analysis? Through aggregate analysis, what is the cost? And through potential function, what is the cost? And so on. Okay. Let's analyze, say, potential function method. What would be the actual cost? All ones will be flipped to zeros. Correct? And 0 remains as it is. That is all we have, right? Now what would be the actual cost? X represents number of ones, and so x number of ones are there, and all of them is flipped to this. Now look at change in potential, and are we increasing the number of ones because of the operation? No. And how many ones are there? We will not see any ones because all ones disappear. So number of ones after the operation is 0, and number of ones before the operation is this. Correct? So we get 0, which means it is constant amortized. So what it says is reset is constant amortized, or reset is free. If you do the operation, reset is free. So reset is free. What does that mean? The data structure itself has sufficient credits to supply for this. All ones will disappear, and we know that with each of them we already have one credit left, and that can be used for reset operation, which means if you introduce reset, it is free, so don't charge anything, or 0 credits. Because as part of reset we flip all ones to 0, but all of them have already one credit with the data structure. Use that for flipping. So reset operation is